I want to talk a little bit of Lady Vols if we can for a second. And it is time for Four Downs, brought to you by our good friend Don Self at State Farm.
4 downs, 4 questions, 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
Four
Downs, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right, Lady Vols are 1-3 in their last 4 games. 1-3 versus top 25 teams, I should say. Is Kellie Harper on the hot seat? That's what we want to dive into for a moment and get your thoughts as well. What do you expect out of this Lady Vols program? And it's brought to you by Don Self. First, if I can, I'll tell you what, I would really like for Cooper to tell everybody what to do.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Good call, Coop. All right, here we go. First down.
Coop here. First down.
Is Kellie Harper on the hot seat right now as of early December?
Yes, and she should be.
Okay.
I think the biggest reason is that a lot of people are going to make she's 1-4 against top 25 teams. They needed overtime to beat Memphis, and a lot of people are going to make the excuse, Kellie Harper doesn't have her best player, Rickea Jackson. Guys, the gap in women's basketball talent, while a lot closer than it was 20 years ago, is still not to the degree that if Tennessee's where you expect it to be, their one injury should cause them to lose 4 or 5 top 25 games. You agree with me on that, right, Dave? The gap's not that significant.
Yes. And nobody is asking her, by the way, to win 7 national championships.
Nobody. But, and by the way, they lost by 20 to Ohio State the other night. You really think they're beating Ohio State at home, even with Rickea Jackson in that game? No, I don't. So, yeah, no, she's on the hot seat.
All right. Second down brought to you by Don Self of State Farm.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
Thanks, Coop. I'd like to see Coop out there. He could ball back in the day. Actually, he said baseball was his second sport. What are the expectations this season? Brought to you by Don Self. Customer service still matters. State Farm agent Don Self and his team take customer service seriously for over 40 years in Collegedale, Ottawa, as well as the greater Chattanooga area. Customer service still matters. Don Self, your friendly neighborhood State Farm agent for the greater Chattanooga area. Customer service. I know everybody's looking for great prices, but nowadays it's nice to have great customer service. So what are the expectations this season? Let me start, if you don't care. Fair expectations are Sweet 16 each and every year for this Tennessee program. There are more women's basketball programs that are pouring money into the sport than before. That is true. It is not like it was when Pat Summitt was at the helm. That's a fact. But Sweet 16 for a program that does spend money like UConn, South Carolina, I could go on and on. That's reasonable expectations every year. However, expectations, given what Tennessee had coming back and the fact that Kellie Harper has had time. How many years is this for her? Is this her 4th year?
This is her 5th year.
5th year. Okay. Final Four. If you go to one of those programs, UConn, South Carolina, Tennessee, within 5 years, you should be in the Final Four. Am I wrong?
Easily within 5 years. And if not, you should have a Final Four type of team. Like it's college basketball, even women's basketball. You can live with an upset every now and then in the NCAA tournament where you may have had a number 1 seed and slipped up in the Elite Eight. That happens all the time in college basketball. But this Tennessee team isn't even on track for a Final Four. Like no one would have them as a number 1 seed or even a number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament right now. So that's either a Final Four, either make the Final Four or be on track for the Final Four as a 1 or 2 seed.
Coop, what down is it?
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
All right. What are fair expectations for 5 years? The next 5 years. I say 2 Final Fours, and you're in 2 Final Fours, Elite Eight, 2 Sweet 16s. I think that's fair. Is that too harsh? Is that too high?
I think you're allowed one first round exit every 5 years. This day and age of women's basketball, first weekend exit in the NCAA tournament. I think you're allowed one every 5 years.
So 1 first weekend, two Final
Fours. One first weekend, 2 Sweet 16s, 2 Sweet 6. One one first weekend, 2 second weekends, 2 third weekends, which third weekend is Final Four.
Yep, absolutely. And then 4th down.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
All right, 4th down is, how does this end?
I think Danny White's going to fire her. Danny White, largely because Danny White is confident in his own ability to hire. Danny White is the best hirer in all of college athletics as an athletic director. Look at his track record. Look at guys he's found dating back to when he was at Buffalo. I mean, the dude's amazing, Dave. And I think there are a lot of names out there that you can go get. And so I think he fires her. And here's the real sticking point, Dave. The football thing already wrecked Fulmer's legacy as athletic director at Tennessee. If Danny White fires Kellie Harper, that's just another nail, and that's just like adding insult to injury, because that was a Fulmer hire as athletic director at Tennessee, and that even makes his legacy even more irrelevant.
Did you think it was a bad hire at the time?
Yes, I did, because she had gotten fired from another job in the past, and Fulmer made the hire because, and I never believe in doing this, Missouri State in 2019, where she was, made a Cinderella run to the Sweet 16. Here's a lesson in college sports, particularly college basketball. Never hire a coach because they had a Cinderella tournament run. Do you know how easy it is to get hot in the tournament, guys? That is not indicative of the job you do at that place.
Yeah, I'm completely with you there. I mean, you could have one hot shooting team. I mean, Southwest Missouri State beat Tennessee in Charlotte one year with Jerry Green, and they were far more Tennessee was far more talented, and Southwest Missouri State beat Tennessee. If you play that game 10 times, Tennessee wins 9.5. So no, you're right. Don't pick somebody off a tournament run. But let me ask you this. Is Tennessee perceived as a good job to have because of the support, or is it perceived as an okay job to have because of expectations? Can you call Kara Lawson, a Don Staley, an A-list coach and get them to come? Or has Tennessee changed so dramatically from the Pat Summit days that those ladies are going to be like, I'm going to go hard pass on that?
I think Tennessee is a terrible job to have. And I'm going to tell you why. It's not just the expectations. No one's expecting 7, 8 national titles. No one's expecting that. So I'm not saying it's because of the expectations. Tennessee's a terrible job to have because of the culture of the program that is very similar, Dave. And my best example is Tennessee's a terrible job to have the way Notre Dame is a terrible job to have in football. In the sense, it's not the expectations. It's that there's a culture that you're expected not just to win, but to win a certain way. And the winning a certain way is not possible to win that way anymore in women's basketball. And there are things like Women's Basketball Hall of Fame is in Knoxville. Coaches don't believe in giving their players a tour of the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. The culture is you don't give your player a tour of the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame because that's an unfair recruiting advantage. So what if it's an unfair recruiting advantage? This was the whole Pat Summit Maya Moore thing. Remember, with Gina Auriemma. She was mad that Gina Auriemma was giving his players a tour of the ESPN facility.
Well, are they not doing that anymore?
No, Pat,
are they not
doing
a tour of the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame? If not, that would be insane-o.
They didn't believe. I know this. When I was there, they didn't believe in it. They thought that was an unfair recruiting. They are very by the book. Here's why Tennessee got great guys. Tennessee has a unique women's basketball.
Say this. I'm not sure what you're supposed to do with the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame because the times I've been there, it's basically been talk to the janitor.
The what?
The janitor. I'm not being mean. I mean, you would have plenty of room if you took some visitors there.
Yeah. And so here's the women's basketball culture at Tennessee is not, here's what a lot of students don't get. It's not the same fan base that is the Tennessee football fan base and the Tennessee basketball fan base. Okay. It's not like other leagues where like UConn, the women's basketball and the men's basketball fans, there's a crossover there. Okay. Not the way with Tennessee women's basketball. Tennessee women's basketball, and here's what people need to understand. Pat Summitt was a great coach, but Dave, you want to know why Tennessee became such a legendary program more than anything else? Because Tennessee was the only state in the South and the only college really to fully embrace Title IX when it happened in the early 1970s. They got fully on board with women's sports when, because of old school thinking in a lot of Southern schools, there was a lot of anti-belief in women's sports at that time. Put it that way. And Tennessee was, Tennessee was ahead of the curve in high school basketball. They changed the high school basketball rules before anybody else. Tennessee has high school basketball, women's basketball embedded from the 1930s. No other state has that. And it was just a culture that was developed because Tennessee was ahead of the curve with women's sports. That's why they got so good. That advantage is gone. Every state has embraced women's sports at this point. But the people that became Tennessee fans are those women from the 1970s that fought so hard for these rights that they earned and they deserved. But they believe, many of them believe you do things a certain way that you just can't do it this day and age. And until they accept that they can't do it that day and age. I mean, Fulmer caved to pressure. I'll tell you this. Fulmer did not want to hire Kellie Harper, Dave. The reason he hired Kellie Harper is because the alumni came to him and basically was like, you have to hire a former Lady Vol. You can't hire outside the Lady Vol culture to coach the Lady Vols.
Would certainly be ridiculous.